The house with no mirrors. At 2:17 a.m., the phone rang in Detective Samuel Ibekwa's apartment. He let it ring twice longer than he should have. Experience had taught him that nothing good ever came after 2 in the morning. "Detective Ibekwa," he said finally, voice thick with sleep. There was a pause, breathing, then a voicemail, shaky, trying to sound calm. "You need to come to 14 Iroko Crescent. Now, who is this?" Another pause. A swallow. "There's been something bad." The line went dead. Samuel stared at the receiver. He considered calling back, but the number was already gone unlisted. Masked, impossible to trace. He swung his legs out of bed and reached for his jacket. By the time he arrived at Iroko Crescent, the street was already lit with police lights, red and blue bleeding into the night like an open wound. House number 14 stood at the end of the cul-de-sac, a two-story colonial with peeling white paint and a front gate hanging slightly ajar, as if it had been opened in a hurry and never closed. Samuel didn't know it yet, but this house would follow him for the rest of his life. The body was found in the upstairs bedroom. Her name was Margaret Holloway, age 34, a secondary school literature teacher, divorced, no children. She lay on her back in the center of the room, arms carefully folded across her chest like a corpse in an old painting. Her eyes were open. Someone had removed her eyelids, not torn, not hacked, surgically cut. There was almost no blood. Her mouth was sewn shut with black thread, neat, deliberate stitches pulling the lips into a grotesque, permanent smile. The most disturbing detail, however, was not her face. It was the walls. Every mirror in the room, dresser mirror, wardrobe mirror, even a small hand mirror had been removed, not shattered, not stolen, removed cleanly. In their place were dozens of handwritten notes, taped directly to the walls in careful rows. Each note contained the same sentence. She finally saw what she refused to look at over and over. Same handwriting, same ink. Margaret's fingernails were broken and blooded. Defensive wounds marred her forearms. She had fought. The coroner would later estimate time of death between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no weapon, and no explanation. Margaret Holloway was, by all accounts, ordinary. She taught Shakespeare and poetry at a public secondary school. Her students described her as quiet but intense, someone who stared too long when listening. She had moved into 14 Iroko Crescent just 8 months earlier, after a sudden divorce from her husband, Thomas Holloway. Thomas was cooperative. Too cooperative. "I loved her," he told Samuel during their first interview. "She just changed." "How?" Samuel asked. Thomas hesitated. "She stopped sleeping. She covered the mirrors in our house. All of them. Said she didn't recognize herself anymore." "Did she say why?" "She said someone was watching her through them." Thomas had an alibi, working an overnight shift at a printing factory across town. Multiple witnesses confirmed it. Margaret's neighbors reported strange behavior in the weeks before her death. Lights on all night, curtains never opened, packages delivered and never retrieved. One neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Abiola, said something that stuck with Samuel. "She told me the house didn't like mirrors," the woman whispered. "Said it punished people who looked too closely." Samuel had laughed politely at the time. He would not laugh later. 3 days after the murder, a package arrived at the police station. No return address. Inside was a cassette tape. Typed label, "For debt, S.I.B. Against his better judgment, Samuel listened. Margaret's voice filled the room, calm, measured, unmistakable. "If you're hearing this, then I was right. And I'm sorry." A pause, breathing. "I started seeing things in the mirrors 3 months ago. Not reflections, observations. Like someone studying me from the other side." The tape crackled. "They don't blink. They don't move when I move. And sometimes, they smile before I do." Samuel stopped the tape. The recording continued. "I tried breaking them, covering them, but it made them angry. I think the house helps them." Another pause. "I don't think I'm supposed to survive this." The tape ended abruptly. Forensics confirmed the voice was Margaret's. The tape itself, No fingerprints, no identifiable manufacturer, and no explanation for how it had been delivered after her death. Investigators found something else 2 weeks later. Under the carpet in Margaret's bedroom were etchings carved into the wooden floorboards. Hundreds of them. Eyes, open eyes, closed eyes, eyes with no pupils, all carved with a sharp instrument, possibly a knife or chisel, over a long period of time. Some were deep, others shallow. Some looked rushed, frantic. One phrase appeared again and again, carved into the wood. "Don't look back." The phrase was incomplete in several places, as if the carver had been interrupted. The murder weapon was never found, but something worse was. In the attic, investigators discovered a single mirror, wrapped in cloth and hidden beneath old boxes. On its surface, scratched so lightly it was almost invisible, were the words, "It saw you too." Samuel ordered the mirror removed. That night, he dreamed of standing in Margaret's bedroom, surrounded by mirrors that whispered his name. 6 months later, another body was found. Jonathan Reed, age 42, journalist. He had been investigating Margaret's murder independently. His body was discovered in his apartment bathroom. Eyes removed, not sewn shut, mirrors missing. This time, however, something new had been added, written in blood on the bathroom wall. He asked the wrong questions. Jonathan's notes were recovered from his laptop. They mentioned 3 other deaths over the past 20 years with similar details, unsolved, dismissed as isolated crimes. Different cities, different victims, same removal of mirrors, same mutilations. All of them had lived, at some point, in houses built by the same now-defunct construction company. The company's records were incomplete, the architect unknown, the blueprints missing, and the houses still standing. Samuel began visiting 14 Iroko Crescent alone. He told himself it was professional curiosity. The house felt wrong. Sound behaved strangely inside it. Footsteps echoed when he wasn't walking. Doors creaked when he stood still. There were no mirrors left anywhere. But sometimes, Samuel felt watched. One evening, he noticed something new on the wall of the bedroom. A note. Fresh paper. Fresh ink. "You're looking now." He left immediately. The note vanished by morning. Thomas Holloway disappeared 9 months after Margaret's death. His car was found abandoned near a coastal road. Inside the trunk, police found only one item, a mirror, scratched deeply across its surface. She was right. Thomas's body was never found. Samuel requested the case be closed. It wasn't. It couldn't be. In 2004, Samuel received an anonymous envelope at his home. Inside was a case file, photographs, statements, floor plans. The file detailed his own investigation, including notes he did not remember writing. At the back was a photograph of Samuel standing inside Margaret's bedroom, staring directly into the hidden attic mirror. On the back of the photo, "You looked." Samuel checked his apartment. Every mirror was gone. Epilogue. The unanswered question. Detective Samuel Ibeke, retired. He refuses interviews. He lives in a house with no reflective surfaces, no mirrors, no glass, no polished metal. He claims the killer was never human. The official case file lists the murders as unsolved, motive unknown, but in evidence storage, locked away and never displayed, is a single mirror, covered in scratches, and if you stand in front of it long enough, witnesses say, your reflection begins to move on its own, and when it smiles before you do. Case status: unsolved.